And you're absolutely sure that this will work? Asked Mattson, who peeked intently from his hiding place behind the couch, not taking his eyes off the front door of the gym for a second. Yeah, his plan is foolproof. Maki proclaimed proudly, who was the cause of their current situation. I don't know, man, if 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬 takes that wrong, the gym will burn down. Or Oikawa, in the worst case. Or us, actually. Nonsense. 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬 will definitely appreciate this gesture, wait and see. Mattson scratched his head, already imagining the scene. Well, I know where you're getting at, but I don't think it'll work. 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬 is much too stubborn anyway to get. Shish. Maki interrupted his friend while he pushed Mattson's head down quickly so that they couldn't be seen behind the bench. The two of them listened eagerly to the approaching steps. When they heard a door, Mattson couldn't help but peek over the edge of the backrest and see if Maki's grandiose plan would work. Maki probably had a similar idea, but he was far more ungraceful than his friend, so that when he leaned over the bench, he lost his balance and did half a somersault. Idiot. Mattson muttered before he came out of the hiding place as well, since their cover had been blown anyway. What's going on here? Came a voice from the direction of the door. Damn it. False alarm. In front of them, in the doorway, there weren't the expected people, but instead a very puzzled-looking Yahaba. Why are you guys hiding behind the bench? Is there a reason for this nonsense? Yes, there is, and it could come through this door at any moment, so don't stand there and come over here. Maki urged him over, but he didn't follow the gesture right away. If you could explain to me what? Before Yahaba could ask his question, she was interrupted by Mattson. See for yourself. He then pointed up with his finger. Yahaba looked up, and he became even more confused. A mistletoe hung over him on the frame of the door, soft, green leaves with individual red dots, tied together with a striped bow in the colors red and green, the Christmas colors, and the branch was obviously taped to the door frame. Wow, a mean place for a mistletoe. Yahaba remarked, but didn't seem to mind that much. It's perfect, now we're just waiting for the right victims. Victims? Ooh, wait, I see, good idea. But how are you going to get both of them to this point at the same time? Yahaba asked curiously, apparently also quite pleased with Maki and Mattson's secret plan. I was actually looking for our captain, but I have no idea where he might be. 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬 is fetching Oikawa from his fangirls at this point of time. Exactly, and they go back together too, and then they have to go through that door. Maki pointed to it with his finger, then he proceeded to explain. When those two have to go through the door, they'll be under the mistletoe, and what does the old tradition ask for again? Teasingly, he came closer and closer to Yahaba until he couldn't move his head back any further. A kiss. Yahaba asked, unsettled. I know that though. Correct, a kiss. Maki pursed his lips and made a kiss gesture to Yahaba before stepping back and finally giving the poor man some space. And why is it important that they kiss, you ask? I didn't ask. Because of their never-ending tension. Yep, we all know it, so now you really have to get out of there. Impatiently, Mattson interrupted and grabbed both of his teammates by the arms and led them to their previous hiding place. Yeah, they really have to date desperately. Only then we all will have our rest. It was true, the childhood friends regularly drove the 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬 team crazy, mostly Maki and Mattson, with their obvious crushes on each other and the secret glances when the other wasn't looking. When Mattson told Maki over lunch last week how 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐬𝐬 had complained about Oikawa's fangirls and how he keeps having to basically be guard dog to him again and that he couldn't hear it anymore, Maki came up with this plan, which should finally be put into action, in the hope that a kiss would finally give both of them the push they need to make something out of it. Well, I don't want to complain, but... Before Yahaba could finish speaking, he had a hand over his mouth. Maki looked at him accusingly, his index finger pressed to his lips. Shish, don't ruin this for us. Well, aside the fact that I can't imagine that this will work. Yahaba shook his head. Don't you think it would be a lot more inconspicuous if you just stayed in the gym normally instead of hiding behind a bench? He had a point there. Silence filled the room until Mattson shrugged and stood up from the floor. He's right, why are we actually hiding? Besides, how are you going to make sure they even notice it? If Maki hadn't caught my attention, I would have just walked through the door and other people might too. Yahaba added with a thoughtful frown. Silence filled the room, again. Seems like we missed something. Mattson remarked dryly when he got up too. Maki grumbled and did the same, probably indignant that his great plan was revealed by Yahaba as not so great at all. So, the small group of three instead hang around the gym, like normal people, and not behind its benches. Okay, when they come, act natural. Maki said, who promptly made himself busy with a volleyball. And then they heard it again, the sound of footsteps approaching in front of the door. Maki and Mattson their breath intently, while 𝐻𝐻𝐵 wondered why he were still here at all. When the gym doors finally opened, this time, luckily, the right people stood there. Both looked exhausted. After all, they probably just ran away from a horde of fangirls, and 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐥𝐞 most probably had a hard time dragging Oikawa around, and Maki and Mattson knew from experience that dealing with persistent fangirls was never easy. You really need to work on that, dumbass, if you actually wanna. 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿, who was about to scold Oikawa, suddenly stopped, and Oikawa, who had his eyes once again riveted on his iwa-chan, finally turned his head to them questioningly after 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 suddenly stopped speaking. Silence. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Is there a damn reason why you three are gawking at us like this? 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 finally broke the silence. Oh well, so much for act natural. Apparently, they had all been so excited that they had completely forgotten that it is not normal at all to stare at the door like vultures. Fortunately, Mattson recovered pretty quickly. Oh yeah, there is. Then he pointed to the spot above their heads. Look what's hanging over you. At the same time, both looked up first, then at each other. Their reactions were as expected. While Oikawa let out an amused and simply amazed sound, 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 just snorted contemptuously, throwing his gym bag over his shoulders. Really? How old are you all again? It's a tradition. Maki interjected, arms crossed over his chest. It's bullshit. It came back promptly. Oikawa, who hadn't said anything about the situation, just stared up at the mistletoe as if he just saw a miracle happen right in front him. PSH, you only say that because you're afraid to kiss Oikawa. Ha. 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 furrowed his eyebrows, genuinely confused at the attempt of provocation thrown at him. Afraid. What does that have to do with anything? Oh yes, it takes a lot of courage to kiss someone, after all. 𝐻𝐻𝐵 added with a shrug. As if. What kind of courage would that take? After some light teasing, 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 just stayed stubborn, while Oikawa is probably pleading to the gods in the background for 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 to just take the damn bait. The courage to open up to love, man. All eyes were on him. Even 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 forgot his frustration for a moment and looked at his teammate speechless, while Oikawa looked like he was going to go into cardiac arrest at any moment. Oikawa looked up at 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 and made a kissy face to him, to which 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 ignored and looked at the very innocent bystanders instead at first, before he turned back his gaze to Oikawa next to him. Stop doing that. Doing what? Doing weird shit. But don't you wanna kiss this handsome face? It's the only action you'll probably ever gonna get, since your face scares the pretty lady. Ow. Okay, that was a little too much. Mattson commented, ignoring the childhood duo's light bickering in the background, and put a hand on Maki's shoulder. But he's right though. 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 is afraid of a little kiss. He tried to tease and incite his friend further. Who is afraid here? 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 shot back, promptly stopping the way his hand is twisting Oikawa's ear. Obviously, you are. 𝐻𝐻𝐵, you too. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Chicken. Yeah, 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿's a chicken. 𝐦𝐢𝐬-chan is a coward. A vein on 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿's forehead began to throb dangerously, his ears probably bleeding from all the annoying taunts surrounding his head. Shut up. While all happily continued, 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 just sighed in frustration and touched his forehead. Sometimes his teammates were just unbelievable. Are they really high schoolers? Are you scared of kissing a guy? Not the hell. There's nothing wrong in kissing a guy. It's wrong if it's you. 𝐸𝐲-chan, you dummy. You're ignoring a blessing from the gods. But I shouldn't kiss you just because of a tradition. It's so damn uncomfortable like that. So you'll kiss me in any other circumstances. Shut up, I didn't say that. That's understandable, of course. 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 is the voice of reason as always, no surprise there, but they didn't need that right now. So then Maki delivered the decisive blow. Okay, we understand that you've never kissed anyone before. I bet you don't know how to do it. Ha, yeah, or maybe you have and it's just bad, in which case we'd prefer to spare our poor captain that. He threw more fuel into the fire that was 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿. All eyes turned to Maki, planned or not, but provoking 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 like that was a danger to life and limb that should not be taken if you are still clear in your head. Unfortunately, Maki isn't. Man. Fly high dude. PFFT. Even if it's true, that doesn't mean you can say it. You really like to get on my nerves today, Shirikawa. 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 snarled as he grabbed Oikawa by the chin and forced his head in his direction. And before Oikawa could retort, before he knew what was happening to him, 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 grabbed him by the arms and pulled him close. He pressed his closed lips aggressively against those of the astonished Oikawa, his eyes tightly shut. Oikawa literally took a breather. Not only because 𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 made it impossible for him to breathe and his arms felt like they were trapped in a vice, but also because he hadn't expected that he would actually push through with it. Oikawa must have underestimated Iwaizumi's stubbornness and well-known competitiveness. They stood there for a few seconds, rigid and awkward, but then Iwaizumi finally began to relax a little. The firm pressure of his hands loosened a little and his features slowly softened the longer the kiss lasted until Iwaizumi finally let go of his arms completely. When Iwaizumi noticed that Oikawa made no efforts to move away, he stepped closer to him, instead placing his hand lightly on his cheek. Oikawa winced briefly when he felt the gentle touch on his skin, but didn't break the kiss. Iwaizumi carefully stroked the high-blushed cheek of Oikawa with his thumb, probably to calm him down a bit since Oikawa was still trembling, but it had exactly the opposite effect. "You're trembling like a chihuahua, it's damn funny. Where did all your teasing went?" Iwaizumi muttered so only the two of them could hear, and Oikawa did the same. "Down the drain along with your chances of getting a girlfriend. Shut up. Don't want one anyway. PFF, I know." And so, their lips touched once again and moved slowly against each other. The kiss became more tender, softer, less forced, their lips now fitted better against each other than they did as they were pressed convulsively together. Their movements became more of a routine, less clumsy, and it really started to feel extremely good, more of relaxing. Time seemed to stand still, the others, who were still in the room, seemed completely forgotten. Currently, there was only the two of them at this door. Under the mistletoe. When both slowly opened their eyes, their gazes met. Nevertheless, neither of the two wanted to break the kiss. The emotions reflected in Iwaizumi's yes were overwhelming, and they made Oikawa's heart tremble. At this moment he wished that kiss would never end. Unfortunately, it had to. After all, they couldn't stay here forever. A throat clearing finally brought the two lovebirds back into the real world. Apparently, they had been kissing long enough that the other people in the room became uncomfortable. When they broke apart, they both needed a moment to process everything that had happened. Both of them now had a distinct blush on their cheeks. "See," Iwaizumi said at last, turning to the other three. "I can kiss very well." Maki just nodded, since in truth he had never really doubted it. Or was the kiss bad? Trash. Oikawa was not. "I think I'm still better though. It's not a competition. Whatever, anyway, there you have it, happy now." "Very happy," Matson chimed in, who was probably the first to regain his composure and seemed to be happy for both of them. "It was real awkward though." "Fantastic," Iwaizumi grumbled before fully stepping in further into the gym. "Quit idling and warm up for practice while we're waiting for the others." Shortly after Iwaizumi busied himself at the other side of the gym, Oikawa hummed and followed after the vice captain with an obvious skip to his step. "And now, did that help?" Yahaba asked, scratching his head helplessly. "Not really. They mostly seem unaffected. They're acting like usual. Nope. No confession of love, no proposal of marriage, nothing. Not even with tongue. I am ashamed to have conducted this disappointment of a plan." "Cheer up, man. There's still next time. There won't be a next time." Practice was over and all of the Aba Josai team went home. All but the captain and vice captain. The gym door opened with a soft creak, the weak light from the street lights lights up area and revealed Oikawa walking out of the gym after locking up. Oikawa closed the door behind him, before he made his way over to Iwaizumi who was waiting for him at the school entrance. "Hey Iwa-chan." Iwaizumi only grunted as he acknowledged the other's presence. "Took you long enough, dumbass." Oikawa laughed a little and he stopped beside Iwaizumi. Sorry, I had to obtain something at first." "What?" Instead of answering, Oikawa pulled something out from behind his back and held it above their heads. And Iwaizumi recognized immediately what it was. "Where did you get?" "I stole it from the doorframe." Iwaizumi shook his head in disbelief, but there's a small fond smile on his lips. "Won't they miss it? They don't need it anymore." "What? Why not?" "Well, I think they only put it there because of us." "Of course, those idiots." Oikawa laughed and moved to grab Iwaizumi's hand to intertwine it with his. "They really think we're doing something, huh? It's amusing to watch either way. So, can I kiss you?" Iwaizumi sighed before taking the mistletoe from Oikawa and carelessly tossing the poor plant on the ground. "You don't need to ask and you don't need a stupid plant for this." Iwaizumi breathed out before holding the back of Oikawa's head gently against his free hand and sealing their lips together. As lovers, they can kiss each other whenever they want. No mistletoes needed.